Imagine a weekend getaway where two couples, bound by love and trust, decide to play a dangerous game, swapping partners for one night. In the steamy glow of a Big Sur hot springs, under a sky full of stars, Jake, Sarah, Emily, and Michael cross a line that changes everything. What happens when desire tests the limits of loyalty? Stay tuned for a story of passion, secrets, and the choices that redefine love. I met Emily and Sarah back in our college days at UCLA, where the three of us were thick as thieves. Picture late-night study sessions in the library, sneaking beers at beach bonfires, and arguing about life's big questions under the starry California sky. Emily and I dated for a hot minute, a whirlwind of cheap diner coffee and stolen kisses behind the stacks. It was intense, but life got in the way, distance, dreams, and a couple of stupid fights, and we parted ways, staying friends who could always pick up where we left off. After graduation, I jetted off to grad school on the East Coast, diving into research while Emily stayed in LA. When I returned, Sarah, sharp, funny, and with a smile that could light up a room, caught my heart, and before long we were married, building a life in the vibrant chaos of Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Emily met James, a smooth-talking partner at the accounting firm where Sarah worked. They hit it off, tied the knot, and just like that, our lives were intertwined again. Sarah was killing it at the firm, working side by side with Michael, a senior accountant with a knack for numbers and a charm that could sell sand in a desert. Michael was married to Emily, and the four of us became a tight crew. Think rooftop dinners, weekend hikes in Griffith Park, and game nights filled with laughter and too much wine. But there was something else simmering beneath the surface. Emily and I had this unspoken spark, a flicker of our college days that lingered in the way our eyes locked or how we'd laugh a little too hard at old inside jokes. Sarah, meanwhile, had caught Michael's attention. He was her mentor, always professional, but his compliments carried a weight that went beyond work, especially during late-night projects when the office was quiet. It started small, like a ripple in a pond. Michael would call Sarah his work wife, and Emily would tease me about being her college sweetheart. We'd laugh, but those jokes were like seeds, taking root in the back of our minds. One night, at a trendy rooftop bar in Santa Monica, the ocean breeze cool against our skin, Michael leaned close to Sarah, his voice low. "You make work feel like a privilege," he said, his eyes holding hers a beat too long. Sarah blushed, brushing it off, but I saw the curiosity in her glance. She loved me, no question, but there was a spark there, a what-if that mirrored the one I felt when Emily's hand grazed mine during a heated round of charades. We were happy, Sarah and I, Emily and Michael, but we were human, restless, craving a jolt to shake up the monotony of our cozy lives. The spark caught fire during a group trip to a hot springs resort in Big Sur. The place was pure magic, eucalyptus-scented air, a private cabin tucked among redwoods, and a hot tub where the stars felt close enough to touch. We'd brought a bottle of Pinot Noir, and after a few glasses, the vibe turned playful, then electric. Michael suggested truth or dare, his grin mischievous. It started silly, confessing embarrassing crushes, doing goofy dance moves, but then he dared Sarah to kiss him. "Just a peck," he said, winking. Sarah glanced at me, her eyes searching for a green light. My heart pounded, but I played it cool. "Go for it," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The kiss was quick but lingered just enough to shift the air. Emily, sitting beside me, nudged my knee under the bubbling water, her smile daring. "Your turn, Jake," she whispered, her voice a velvet challenge. As the steam swirled around us, Michael tossed out an idea that felt like a match struck in a room full of gasoline. "What if we tried something new?" he said, his tone careful but charged. "Just for the weekend. A little swap." He didn't spell it out, but we all knew what he meant. Emily laughed, a nervous edge to it, but it wasn't a no. Sarah's eyes widened, but she didn't shut it down. My pulse raced, not just at the thought of Emily, of rekindling that old flame, but at the sheer audacity of it all. We set rules, no strings, no jealousy, and absolute respect for boundaries. Condoms were a must unless everyone agreed otherwise. It was an experiment, we told ourselves, a way to spice things up without breaking what we had. That night in the cabin, the world felt like it tilted. Sarah and Michael slipped away to one of the bedrooms, their laughter fading behind the door. Emily and I stayed by the hot tub, the water lapping against our skin, the silence heavy with possibility. "You sure about this, Jake?" she asked, her voice soft, her eyes searching mine. I nodded, my throat tight. We moved to the couch, the fire casting shadows across her face. When we kissed, it was like stepping back into a memory, familiar, but edged with something new, something forbidden. Her fingers traced my jaw, her breath warm against my neck, and we let the moment carry us. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional, a dance of nostalgia and desire, each touch a question, each sigh an answer. The firelight painted her skin in gold, and as we moved together, it felt like we were stealing time, rewriting a chapter we'd left unfinished. Across the cabin, Sarah and Michael were lost in their own world. Later, she'd tell me how it started, Michael's hand brushing hers as they sat on the bed, talking about work, then life, then nothing at all. His touch was deliberate, confident, his fingers trailing up her arm, leaving goosebumps in their wake. When they kissed, it was slow, exploratory, like they were testing the waters. Sarah said it felt like a secret she wasn't supposed to want, but did, a rush of adrenaline and guilt that made her heart race. Michael was gentle but intense, his hands guiding her with a familiarity that surprised her. They moved together in the dim light, the sound of the hot springs outside a soft backdrop to their rhythm, each moment a balance of surrender and control. Back in LA, that weekend became our little secret, a spark we carried in our glances, our touches. Sarah and I were still us, cooking pasta in our Venice Beach apartment, binge-watching sci-fi shows, planning a future together, but there was a new energy, a thrill that made our quiet moments electric. Emily and I would catch each other's eyes at group dinners, a silent nod to what we'd shared. Michael and Sarah, meanwhile, had their own rhythm, late nights at the office turning into stolen moments when the rest of the firm was gone. We didn't talk about it outright, but we all knew. It was a dance, carefully choreographed to keep our marriages intact. One Friday morning, as I drove Sarah to the train station for a work trip to San Francisco, I asked, "Got plans tonight, babe?" She smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Michael's taking me to dinner after we wrap up. Might stay late." Her voice was light, but her eyes sparkled with anticipation. "You cool with that?" I grinned, my stomach twisting with nerves and excitement. "Yeah, have fun. I'll pick up Emily, maybe grab some sushi." Sarah laughed, kissing my cheek. "Don't have too much fun without me." That night, Emily came over to our place, the sunset painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. We ate on the balcony, the ocean breeze carrying the scent of salt and possibility. After dinner, we sat close, our knees brushing, the conversation drifting to college memories. "Remember sneaking into the planetarium?" she asked, her eyes glinting. I laughed, the memory vivid, us lying under a fake starry sky, dreaming out loud. The air grew heavy, charged with unspoken questions. When I kissed her, it was like diving into a wave, familiar yet thrilling. We moved to the living room, the city lights twinkling outside, and let the moment sweep us away. Her hands roamed my back, her breath catching as we found a rhythm, the couch creaking softly under us. It was slow, deliberate, each touch layered with years of what-ifs. Her skin was warm, her laughter soft, and as we moved together, it felt like we were stealing a piece of the past, wrapping it in the present. In San Francisco, Sarah and Michael were in their own world. They'd booked separate rooms at a boutique hotel in the Mission District, but everyone knew Sarah would end up in Michael's suite, with its view of the city skyline. Over text, she told me about their day, client meetings, number crunching, but her words had a playful edge. "Michael's got big plans," she wrote, with a winking emoji. I pictured her in that suite, the lights dim, a bottle of wine on the table. Michael's hand would find hers, his fingers tracing circles on her wrist, a silent invitation. Sarah told me later how it unfolded, him pulling her close, his lips brushing her neck, the air thick with anticipation. They moved to the bed, the city lights casting shadows across their bodies, each touch a spark, each whisper a confession. It was intense, she said, not just because of the physicality, but because of the trust it required, the surrender to something they both wanted but knew was dangerous. The next morning, I woke with Emily beside me, her hair splayed across the pillow like a halo. We shared coffee and quiet smiles, the weight of the night settling between us. Sarah called later, her voice bright but tinged with something, guilt maybe, or just the complexity of what we were doing. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "You?" She laughed softly. "It's weird, isn't it? But kind of fun." We didn't dig deeper, we didn't need to. We were figuring this out together, navigating a tightrope of desire and trust. Our arrangement became a rhythm. Weekends were for swapping, Emily at our place, Sarah at Michael's sleek downtown loft. The details were intoxicating. With Emily, it was always a mix of nostalgia and discovery. One night, we stayed up late, the TV flickering with some old rom-com we weren't watching. She wore one of my old college sweatshirts, her legs curled under her on the couch. We talked about everything and nothing, our hands finding each other in the dark. When we kissed, it was slow, like savoring a favorite song. We moved to the bedroom, the moonlight spilling through the window, and every touch felt like a memory we were rewriting. Her breath was warm against my ear, her fingers digging into my shoulders, and we moved together like we were chasing something, maybe the past, maybe something new. It was intimate, electric, a dance of familiarity and forbidden thrill. Sarah's nights with Michael were different, charged with a different kind of intensity. She'd tell me bits and pieces, how he'd pour her a glass of wine, his fingers brushing hers as he handed it over, the way he'd tease her about her meticulous spreadsheets before pulling her close. One night, in his loft, they stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawling below. He traced the curve of her spine, his touch deliberate, and when they kissed, it was like a dam breaking. They moved to his bed, the sheets cool against their skin, and Sarah said it felt like a game, playful but intense, each moment testing the boundaries of what they could share. Michael was confident, guiding her with a mix of tenderness and hunger, and Sarah let herself go, caught in the rush of it all. But the thrill came with shadows. Emily and I were falling into something deeper than we'd planned. One night, as we lay tangled in the sheets, she whispered, "Do you ever think about what this means?" Her voice was raw, vulnerable, and it hit me like a punch. I loved Sarah, but Emily was a ghost from my past, a what could have been that refused to stay buried. I brushed it off with a joke, but her question lingered, a crack in the foundation we'd built. Sarah was grappling too. Michael was more than a fling. He was her mentor, her confidant, and now this. Late nights at the office turned into moments of stolen intimacy, his hand on her thigh under the desk, a whispered compliment that sent shivers down her spine. She'd come home flushed, her eyes bright with adrenaline and guilt. "He's intense," she admitted one night, sipping wine on our couch. "But it's just physical, you know? It's not love." I nodded, but I wondered, could we keep it that simple? Were we playing with fire? The ethical weight started to press in. We weren't just swapping partners, we were rewriting our vows, testing the limits of trust. At a group dinner, the tension was thick, Michael's hand on Sarah's knee, Emily's foot grazing mine. We laughed, we drank, but there was an undercurrent of unease. What were we risking? I caught Sarah's eye across the table, and for a moment it was just us, two people who'd promised forever, now caught in a maze of desire and doubt. The breaking point came during a chilly January weekend. Sarah and Michael had a last-minute work trip to Seattle for a client audit, staying until Sunday. Emily and I planned a getaway to a cabin in Big Bear, where the snow fell softly, blanketing the world in quiet. We spent the day hiking, our breath visible in the crisp air, our laughter echoing through the trees. That night by the fire, Emily turned to me, her eyes serious. "Jake, this isn't just fun anymore, is it? Her words cut deep. I felt something for her, something old, something new, something that scared me because it threatened what I had with Sarah. I didn't answer, but the silence said enough. In Seattle, Sarah was wrestling with her own doubts. Michael had booked a suite overlooking Puget Sound, and after a long day of work, they fell into bed, the city lights dancing across their skin. But afterward, as they lay there, Sarah felt a pang she couldn't shake. "Michael," she said softly, "I love Jake. I don't want to lose that." He nodded, his face unreadable. "I get it," he said. "But don't you ever wonder what it would be like to just let go?" His words stayed with her, a seed of doubt in her heart. When Sarah got back, we had a real talk, no distractions, just us in our living room, the city humming outside. "Jake," she said, her voice steady but raw, "I need to know we're still us." I took her hand, feeling the weight of her words. "I love you," I said, but I told her about Emily, about the feelings creeping in. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I feel it too," she admitted. "With Michael. It's not love, but it's something." We decided to stop. No more swapping, no more blurring lines. We needed to rebuild, to find our way back. It wasn't easy. Emily and I kept our distance, sticking to group settings. Sarah set boundaries with Michael at work. There were awkward moments, lingering glances, but we leaned into our marriage. We went to therapy, not because we were broken, but because we wanted to be whole. We talked about trust, desire, and what it means to love through the messiness of being human. Months later, we ran into Emily and Michael at a friend's barbecue. The air was warm, the backyard alive with laughter and the smell of grilled burgers. Emily looked happy, her arm linked with Michael's, and Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. We didn't talk about the past, but we didn't need to. We'd made choices, faced consequences, and come out stronger. As the sun set, Sarah whispered, "We're okay, aren't we?" I kissed her forehead, feeling the truth of it. "Yeah, babe. We're more than okay." That chapter was like a storm, wild, dangerous, but it taught us what we're made of. Love isn't just passion or promises, it's choosing each other again and again, even when the path gets rocky. And as I sit here with Sarah, planning our next adventure, I know we found our way home.